Dockery Smith, a member of the Charlotte Regional Realtor Association, chair of the 2010 Diversity Council. I have here Fred Underwood from the National Association of Realtors, who is the Director of Diversity. Hi, Fred.
Hi, how are you?
I'd just like to ask you a few questions. Will you talk more with me about what you mean when you say inclusionary diversity?
When I speak of inclusion and diversity, it's a concept that really deals with what we need to do under the fair housing laws, which is to be inclusive of all groups and not exclusive of any. Oftentimes when people speak of diversity, people are segmented into different groups. And inclusion is more about including everyone, whereas diversity sometimes has a sort of a targeting concept. But what I really want to speak about on inclusionary diversity is that we need to work to reach out and include realtors who represent buyers from every segment of the market that we serve. And that might be buyers who are either African American, Latino, or other ethnic groups, or it might be buyers who have disabilities, younger buyers, buyers of different sexual orientations, all aspects of who make up our community. And added to that are realtors who come from the different parts of our community. So in that case, we might reach out to African American realtors or to Asian American realtors about inclusion in the association. So there are two different ways of approaching diversity. Both are very important. And I think on there's another piece that I want to caution on, which is the Fair Housing Act limits what we can do as an association in terms of special programs for a particular group of realtors. We cannot discriminate in the terms of membership on the basis of race or national origin or disability in terms of who's a member of the association. So we have to be very careful in our outreach efforts to be inclusive in them, to be speaking about all realtors who serve the community. And we can have efforts to reach out to different groups, but we cannot have programs that are only available for one particular group or another of members. So when one way to look at it is that if you really want to reach out to who's serving the African American community, that is totally acceptable because that's a community that's may not be well represented in the work of the association. And you're likely to reach many African American realtors in that discussion, but you're not going to be doing something in a way that's excluding realtors who aren't African American but who happen to be serving that community. Does that help understand that? Okay.
Well, since you're talking about fair housing, I know we spoke earlier about fair housing. Did you think that law did it apply to the realtors, or was it, to our buyers? Or
well, I think fair housing, if we think about what fair housing is, which is the ability to live where we want to buy the property we want to sell to anyone without regard to race, without regard to ethnicity or disability, we often see that our members, realtors, are somewhat fearful when addressing fair housing because our experience with the fair housing law has been targets of enforcement rather than understanding that the law is there to protect us. And if you think about a transaction, any transaction that you've been in, how many different people are engaged in that transaction? Obviously the buyer and the seller, the realtor's working with the buyer, the realtor's working with the seller, and you go beyond that and you have the title officials, the lenders, etc. Lots of different people are engaged in the transaction. There are lots of different people that might inadvertently do something that's discriminatory and might be hurt by something that's discriminatory. So as a realtor, we are protected by the fair housing laws, which really help make sure that that transaction is not made more difficult or stopped because of someone's discrimination. And if we look at fair housing laws as a tool that protects us as realtors, I think that we can start to see how we can be engaged in our community in promoting fair housing in a much more positive light than simply being afraid of being tripped up and caught by someone enforcing the law. Another aspect that I also want to look at is fair housing is the law that protects the ability of so many realtors to get into the business. You and I both have a right to engage in this profession, in this business, and it cannot be denied to us because of discrimination based on race or gender or national origin or having a disability. And that is very important for inclusion in terms of who's involved in our association. So that's where I think that we have to think about fair housing as being a law for us that protects us, and start thinking about how do we use that knowledge about the importance of fair housing to work with our customers and our buyers.
Okay, thank you. You had been very complimentary of our association and diversity programs. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I think one of the things I wanted to mention earlier is that your program is very comprehensive. You not only are getting out there and doing some events that get people interested in diversity, but you've given some thought as to how you will develop a long-term approach to including people of different backgrounds and ethnic groups into the fabric of the association. And in doing so, and in developing a comprehensive approach, you've looked at government affairs issues, you've looked at providing the housing affordability questions in your community, the housing opportunities, and you've looked at involvement in the governance of the association. So you have a comprehensive approach to addressing diversity, and this is probably the most significant thing that I've noticed that puts the program of the Charlotte Regional Realtor Association ahead of many more throughout the country. You're not totally unique, but you're pretty much in a class by yourself on this.
Well, thank you so much today for sharing with us.
Thank you, Charisma. I've enjoyed being here.